what's the risk if you don't take the chance too?
Yeah.
Are you gonna like look back at your life and like, wow, I really should have started that business, that bakery, that whatever it is that you're passionate about. I think it's more about getting to like a really sweet balance.
Yeah.
Of having a business that's producing solid revenue, that's consistent and predictable, and then my involvement in it is waning over time.
Over time, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you have the system in place.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And like partnerships, which we'll talk about, like I'm hoping that through the partnerships that I put in place and that I'm collecting now, that like maybe some other big entity sees value in absorbing
acquiring
all of it. And because we're all together, it raises the collective value of everything.
That makes sense.
So
I like that play.
I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah.
And then we'll go sit on some Caribbean beach like I was talking about, and I will just cut coconuts for people at a tiki bar.
Exactly. Let's go. What would you call the tiki bar?
Oh God, I don't know. But the thing is, it's like it's such like a sweet dream. And you like think about things like that. You think like, you know, the typical dreams, like I'm gonna be sitting on this beach, I'm gonna have my drinks, and I'm gonna like have this like low key life. How long can you really do that for though? Like I know I'm not built like that. Like what, a long weekend, a week, 2 weeks maybe, and then
then you're itching to create something else.
My mind's going to start going, and it's just like, no, I can't do that. I can't just sit around.
You know what I call that? I call that the hustler spirit. You know, when you have that hustler spirit, you got to go. You can't really, I find it next to impossible just to sit and just do nothing. Like, I feel like there's this natural instinct and this aspect of all of our beings to just want to create something, or to, you know, create value or push things forward. So when you talk about your businesses and what you've done, there's creating the system, allowing it to get to a point where, you know, it can operate on its own and involvement can be whatever you want it to be.
One day.
And it'll happen.
Could be next week for all we know.
Exactly.
You don't know. You just don't know what opportunities are going to come your way.
All you have to do is really trust the process and know that every opportunity that you have to put your best foot forward will be exactly that. And when the opportunity presents itself, then it's not luck how most people look at it, like, oh, you know, it just worked out, it was good timing. It's all the preparation, all the work that you did up to this point that created that opportunity and allowed you to seize it.
And that's how God wants it to be.
Exactly.
He created work.
Yeah.
He did for
He
our
doesn't
benefit.
like idle hands.
No.
Not even a little bit.
He works, and then he rested. And I think, what is rest for us? Maybe it's death. Maybe it's the completion of whatever this mission is, this journey that we're on. Maybe that's the eternal rest. Because other than that, I mean, maybe I can't speak for everybody, but I can't sit idly by.
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
I can only do it for a short period of time.
I mean,
from there, you know.
Every week I'm coming up with new business concepts. And it drives Carolyn kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It does. But you can only do so much too.
So that brings us to how it all started. Before we talk about how it started, you know, I had this great pleasure of really having this conversation with one of my really good friends of over, at this point it's like 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
All right. Born and raised in Rhode Island. At this point, right, you are a father, you're a husband, you're an entrepreneur, a millionaire. You are a designer, an artist, an architect. You've had the opportunity to work with global brands, global artists, celebrities, various like e-commerce projects. And I mean, there's so much. What am I missing? What have you done?
Digital creative experiences.
Okay.
Corporate websites. Yeah. Anything digital web.
That's amazing. How did all of this come to be? Was there someone in your life that really put this spark in you?
You know, as a kid, I was always just very creative.
Yeah.
Just always drawing and coming up with ideas. I remember had a very humble background. My parents didn't make much.
Yeah.
And they instilled a lot in me. They, I guess, born out of not having much, I was kind of forced to get very creative. I remember specifically, like, my friends would have cable television and they'd have video game systems, and I did not have those things. And I would put pen to paper to entertain myself, coming up with stories and characters and my own games on paper.
Wow.
In the absence of that technology, of those kind of modern day luxuries, talking about 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I didn't have access to that stuff. I didn't have a computer growing up. I mean, a lot of people didn't, but some kids did. Video games, computer games, things like that. So I was an only child. And so there was a lot of free time. There was a lot of downtime, creative time. And I would pour myself into all of that.
Isolation, a space where you really had to find ways to, one, entertain yourself, to get creative with. Because it's not like you have like another child or a sibling that's like doing something. It's like, all right, let's do this together. Or they're inspired. For you, your environment was the canvas that you used.
It was quiet. It was quiet enough to do that.
And I feel like it's scary for a lot of people to be in a quiet place, but I feel like that's where a lot of the great things.
I still thrive in quietness.
Yeah. Really?
It's not quiet these days. I've got 3 kids now, and so it's a lot to juggle. Being a father, being an entrepreneur, running these businesses, and but it all started with this humble upbringing, and just having to like work really hard, not having access to too much, doing what I could do with what I had, and my parents were able to start their own businesses, both of them. My father started a pest control business, and I got to see just how being your own master in that way. Like,
and a work ethic, right, of running a business.
Just like even seeing what they had to go through to get it up and running. They didn't have business degrees. I mean, I'm talking 2 people combined making in the 90s, early 2000s, $35,000 a year. It's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. And
but to be able to create that through a channel that you've created, that's also a muscle that not many people can flex.
They had to have like the gumption to like want to do it and then go after it, and it was risky. It was risky, and I saw them take sort of where they were at and build themselves up. And my mom even had a business too. She had a gift shop for 8 years. And I, like, as a kid, instead of being like out at sports and playing with my friends, I was in a retail business from like age 8 to 13 or whatever it was. And I was behind the counter, ringing people out, doing inventory, helping order products, setting up displays. And so I got to see the customer service side, I got to see the retail side, I got to see a service business on my dad's side as well, and all of that like instilled in me like this desire to do stuff on my own.
The entrepreneurial spirit.
And not even for like financial freedom or anything. It was just a freedom outside of like I think for forever I've always been against like these traditional models of like sitting in a corporate office, like all of that stuff. No, thank you. So that was kind of like my upbringing, and that's like what really instilled the business drive in me. So
so then that brought you to what we all know as the Ivy League of design schools. This school, RISD, right? It's one of the most renowned schools when it comes to design in the country, in the world. And you found your way into that space. How did that happen? Was it a given? Was it?
No, not a given. Not a given. again, humble upbringing.
Yeah.
Growing up in Rhode Island with this prestigious school in Providence.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever even been to Providence until I was 18. I swear.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How's that even possible?
I know. I was
like, dude.
this is. I mean, we're talking. I'm in a family where we don't have much. We don't do much here.
Yeah.
We're not doing much. We're kind of home based.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
We're busy with the businesses, my parents' businesses. So RISD was always talked about as this pinnacle. Not a place that I ever saw myself being able to go to, frankly. So you'd hear about prestigious people that come out of RISD and famous designers and architects and musicians and all these great talents, and it's right there,
right down
in
the
the
road.
backyard.
Yeah.
But throughout high school too, I was just kind of into art, just doing creative things, sketching, drawing. It never really materialized itself into a specific direction that I wanted to go into.
Yeah.
And so actually after high school, while other students were maybe getting into 4-year schools or going to really nice art schools in New York or in the South, I went to the community college of Rhode Island. And it's kind of a pattern that throughout the course of my life and my career, I've always felt I've had to work 2 times as hard as everybody to get to the same outcomes. And that's not really true, but it feels that way. We were talking about the word grind a little while ago, and it's definitely.
It was a grind.
It's kind of like a theme in my life. There's this grind that has to take place. I feel like I've had this challenge placed before me to work extra hard to get what I wanted to get.
Yeah.
So I went to a community college. I did 3 years there, studying fine art. It was very cheap, which was good, but I was building a portfolio. I was working in the college. I was working with other students, mentoring them.
Yeah.
And I got really into digital art. Right? This is when the Adobe suite and all of these tools started coming out. Digital cameras were more accessible. So I invested in beautiful, Canon digital camera, and I was taking a lot of photography and doing Photoshop and doing manipulation and translating that in different ways and learning about graphic design for the very first time. And when I found that discipline, graphic design, wow, I can take this digital art and I can make these beautiful things and I can apply it to real world applications and problems for businesses.
Creating that value.
It's amazing. This is what I want to study.
Yeah.
And do you know who has an amazing graphic design program? Rhode Island School of Design.
RISD. Yeah.
So I decided to apply. I had a great teacher mentor at a community college, and she was actually adjunct faculty at RISD, which was awesome. So she knew people there. Did she pull any strings? I don't know.
Maybe.
Who knows? But she definitely knew how I should focus my portfolio.
Yeah.
And that really helped. So I did that, and I remember distinctly having conversations with other teachers and just people in my life saying, or hearing that I was only applying to RISD. And they're like, that seems a little foolish. Don't you want to have some fallback schools?
Yeah.
And I said, why? It's RISD. If I'm gonna go anywhere, it's Rhode Island School of Design.
Yeah.
And if I don't get in this year, I'm gonna keep applying until I get in.
Wow. And I feel like you don't see that, right? That level of persistence, focus. I feel like we live in a world where it's, ideally I'd like to be here, but if this doesn't work out, here's what else I can do. And then for you, it's this or this. And I feel like
not an option.
Yeah, and I feel like when you look at the tyrants of our time, right? You think about Steve Jobs, you think about Mark Zuckerberg, all these people found that single thing that they believed in, and they went after it. Maybe they started down the educational path, but then they honed in and found what made sense for them, and they did not take their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's that level of believing in yourself. So let's dive into that piece. When you were when you made that decision that RISD was going to be the school that you get into and there's no other option, how do you build that level of faith to not create the second option, the plan B?
I don't know if it was like something that I gave much thought to. It was sort of just like it was just a known for me, I guess. Like this is the option. I think it really just comes down to that. And
making a decision.
Was it foolish not to have a backup plan? I don't know, but I know that it worked. Exactly. I know that it ended up working.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting massive scholarships to RISD. I had most of it paid for.
That's amazing.
I had financial assistance because of my parents. At that time, this was like just as my dad was starting his business.
Yeah.
But the income was very low. So it all lined up. But when I was applying to the school, I don't even think I was thinking yet, what if I get in, how am I going to pay for this? It wasn't even like on my mind. It was just, I'm applying and I want to get in. And there's obviously some level of faith there.
Yeah.
But as a 18-year-old, is it just ignorance that comes into play? Like a little bit. I'm not thinking things fully through. So
sometimes that worked in your favor, right? As you were saying.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. And like this is an instance where it was in my control in the sense that I put in a lot of hard work and determination in putting this together, in getting myself to this point, but the rest was not in my hands, was it?
Yeah.
It was in God's hands the whole time. And it does feel like that looking back on it now.
Yeah.
You know, RISD has given me ultimately ended up with a beautiful career. I met my wife at RISD.
Yeah, so that's crazy too. So when you think about, again, so husband, I mentioned that in the beginning, for you to also have a wife that went to this pristine school, and you have two people with this design background and spirit and just talent embedded at your core. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis when you have two minds that essentially can look at things from the same lens?
Yeah.
How has that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like, you would think, wow, these two people. My wife's also extremely creative. She was so visually talented in fine arts that when she went to RISD, they almost were like, "Why are you here?
Yeah,
you don't even need to be here." So
you're too good for us.
she wanted to study fine art. That's what she thought she was gonna do, and they were like, basically like, "Yeah, you don't need to be here." And she said, "Well, I'm here." And
so let's make something.
So she studied industrial design. And so the question, like, how does that manifest in like day to day? You would think, wow, like these two must be like in the studio together every single day working. No, it's not like that at all. But like we're both very into like interior design too, just as like a passion.
Yeah.
And the things that we bring into our home and the things that we collect together.
And I can attest to that, even from, right, I've seen your previous homes and you leading to where you are now, and like the details and like the different elements that you would essentially bring into the overall home's atmosphere.
Yeah.
For me, it's always like, wow, like that detail there, like how did you even find that? How did you bring this together in this way? I feel like you're always telling a story through the different pieces that the two of you take the time to find. And
it's a really cool thing that happens. We have a very similar visual taste.
Yeah.
Even in the eclectic. So it's very easy for us to align on what kind of furniture we're gonna have and what kind of decor we're gonna have, what color palettes. And part of me wonders, like, is that, now that we've been married 9 years this year, like, is it a product of just having two very similar aesthetics, or is it the product of two aesthetically driven people who are married and their aesthetic values have combined, like 2 in 1?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're like one unit. And so, like, sometimes I'm wondering, am I attracted to this thing, this object, this solution?
Yeah.
Or is it, I'm hearing like the collective voices
subconsciously.
Of both of us.
Yeah.
I don't even know anymore, to be honest with you. But an anecdote would be, we really like to go antiquing, and there's this place in Massachusetts we go to. It's a big antique mill. We're talking about like millions of objects.
Oh wow.
Millions of objects. Okay. Multiple floors, multiple buildings.
So it can feel overwhelming.
There's a lot of stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff. So there was one day we were there, and I went one way. We're on the top level, and Carolyn goes the other way, and I'm going down this aisle, and I see these pair of gold vintage sunglasses, and I pick them up, and I try them on, and I think they're very interesting, and I put them back down on the shelf, and I continue on my way. And as I loop back around, we're talking literally millions of objects in these buildings. I come back around, and Carolyn is standing in the same booth with the sunglasses on, the same sunglasses. And so we're talking about picking out the same object out of millions of objects, and this is what we do time and time again.
And for me, when I hear stories like this, I think about like, how can you not define that as like soulmate, right? Because God knows when you find your person, and you're operating within God's will, I feel like God shows you that in so many different ways, and just like, hey, just a reminder.
Yeah.
This person
is made for you.
Locked in.
Yeah,
you're both same vision.
Yeah.
Right? The way you execute might be different, but you're on the same mission and moving in the same direction. And I will give you examples along the way of why, and reaffirm why he who finds a wife finds a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to be able to see, I was at your wedding, and I was there when the two of you were dating, and it's so amazing to see how the two of you have come together to really grow and build something so beautiful with 3 beautiful kids, children, and this beautiful home, massive home that you have. And for me, it's inspirational. For me, I feel like I have this lens and this view to be, to participate in your story and to really see it grow into.
You've been there through all of it too, which gives you a nice perspective on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And for me, I love when we come together and then we really have these like heart-to-heart conversations, real conversations about life. What does it mean to get through, various hurdles,
That's right.
Even in partnership. How do you continue to grow and challenge each other to do things that are outside your comfort zone? So before we jump into the relationship piece, I kind of want to take it back from you now leaving RISD, and then you having this. So you made it clear that you had 2 parents that essentially established the entrepreneur's atmosphere and spirit within you. So it sounds like entrepreneurship was the only way.
Yeah.
Right. So So did you ever try working? Have you ever worked for someone or like had
before and during college? But it's interesting because like, yes, I had this like entrepreneurial drive, but there's also like an aspect when I think about it that working for myself was in some ways, it sounds really crazy, but like it was almost a cop-out to going and like working in some sort of like big professional environment.
Yeah.
Like part of me felt maybe not ready or not deserving of that. But in the grand scheme of things, and I talked about this earlier today, is sometimes the things that we feel uneasy about ourselves or self-conscious about are actually like a blessing in disguise and get used over time in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
And I actually think that if I hadn't gone down this path, I just, obviously wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
I might be somewhere completely different. And I'm really happy with where I am today. And I'm glad I am where I am. So
that's amazing.
It's interesting. So I had that drive to really just start my business right out of school. Didn't make much for a long time. And
what is that process? So let's take our time through that, right? So didn't make what would have been ideal to make during your grind process, right? Now you're in a great spot. But let's talk about that journey. I feel like there's a lot of people who they want to jump into entrepreneurship, or they start and then it doesn't work out, and then they move back to a 9 to 5, or you know, if it's their first time going to 9 to 5, it's just like, again, backup. You made it clear that, you know, when you make a decision, right, that first element is deciding, and then once you make that decision, it sounds like you're all in. So what advice would you give to someone that, all right, you know, I'm thinking about doing something, or I'm starting to do something from an entrepreneurship perspective?
Okay.
What would you say to them?
Yeah, so, I mean...
and keep it real.
Yeah,
yeah.
For real. Like, I had an opportunity right out of school. I didn't have expectations really placed on me yet. I didn't have people depending on me yet. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have a lot of bills to pay.
Yeah.
I had my parents' spare bedroom, which I utilized for many years, for 3 years, before I could even afford to get an apartment. I mean, it was a grind for a while.
Yeah.
So you know, that made it easier for me to get started. I didn't have the pressure. Of course, I pressured myself.
Yeah.
But I didn't have those obligations on me. So, in some ways, I would say that if you already have a family, you already have a 9 to 5 job, you're comfortable there, you have a mortgage, it makes things a lot more difficult
to take those chances, take the risks.
Yeah, you have to really have this drive or ambition or talent or passion to make that jump. And it's gonna be ugly most of the time, right? Chances are in the beginning it might be nice, sweet, right in the beginning, but then there's always, if you think about a mountain, right? You have the mountain, you have the valleys, and you just think about moving up. There's always that point where it's like, okay, I can do this, and then gotta go down, and it's like, all right, to come up, it's a grind, like it's pretty high, and you could choose to stay and then quit, or you can decide to figure out the various ways to. And it's up to you. It's up to you. Like, do you wanna take that chance? What does that look like? What's the risk? What's the risk if you don't take the chance too? Yeah. Are you gonna like look back at your life and like, wow, I really should have started that. That business, that bakery, that whatever it is that you're passionate about. And that's interesting because, I mean, I believe we've both heard this like cliche or this example where the wealthiest place on this planet is the grave site, you know, the cemetery, because you have all these dreams that never were realized because, you know, people, you know, played it safe, or, you know, they let distractions or these different things take away from the drive, the fire that could have really created something beautiful for the people connected to them. Yeah. So, but, right? But, like, why didn't those people maybe take those chances? Hopefully it wasn't out of, like, self-doubt. But a lot of times people are living life, and you get to a point where you have kids and you have a family, and there are things that are more important than, like, you chasing your dream, chasing dreams and your passions. And that's like a very mature thing to come to realize, and it's very difficult to swallow. There's things that I would love to be doing right now. Yeah. I'd like to take my savings and throw it into a new venture, but I can't do it right now. I can't, and I have a good thing going elsewhere, so I need to keep leaning into that. Yeah. So I think that's what the idea would be, as you continue to lean, that can potentially create the avenue for you to do those other things. That's right. Yeah. So we were talking earlier today about how a lot of times, like, you start, if you're going into entrepreneurship, you probably have like a drive behind you. You have a passion for the thing you're doing. But as like with every job, even the most glamorous jobs, it's work. Yeah. And over time, that passion turns into work. And it's just like a relationship. That's what we were talking about. It's like a marriage. It starts with this big passion, and over time, you know, you start getting into the grind of things. It's work. It's good work. Yeah, it's fulfilling work. Yeah. So in the beginning, it's the honeymoon stage. It's the honeymoon. And then you get past the honeymoon. It's like, what's that on your face? What are you? It's like, you know. So for the person who created this thing in their mind where
things have to always be beautiful, or they're maybe stuck, what advice would you give them? How do they get from honeymoon stage to what is actually real, and then how do you really create this aspect where I think we were talking about like dating, like where you create the atmosphere to bring that honeymoon stage throughout the journey, because obviously there's going to be challenges, tough moments.
Yeah, you're going to start with that passion. Some people have a business where they can stay passionate about it all the time. Is that true? I don't know. Yeah. I think everything is work. Everything becomes work. Even though, like I said, even the most glamorous of jobs, there's like this hard work aspect to it. If you can keep that passion in there, that's fantastic. I know in my work, it's definitely not the same passion that I had when I got into it.
Yeah.
But my business has also evolved quite a bit. It's not, I started out as a graphic designer and doing brand identity systems and corporate web design and stuff like that. And when you're younger, everything is new and everything's like super exciting, and like thinking, wow, imagine if I got to work with that brand, or that's just unbelievable. I could even do that. And then you start to do it.
Yeah. And
the glamour wears off. Yeah, all right, I'm working with this giant brand, or like just this past month I worked for AT&T and I worked for Progressive on two very different projects, and they're not glamorous at all, and just people doing their jobs, and there's like that aspect to it. So it's not all like amazing, but there's still things that I find that I really enjoy in my work,
in that process.
But at the same time, like your life evolves too, your needs evolve, and just pure passion, unless, like I was saying, like unless you have like a trust fund behind you, it becomes a reality that your business needs to actually work and produce income and revenue and bring people into the business and be able to pay them well, you know what I mean? It becomes passion becomes like a lesser objective in the business, but like sustainability of the business becomes front and center, and just like making things work efficiently as a business, finding your positioning, finding like the market fit for your business becomes more important than passion at that point. I think there's a place for all of this stuff, but it's a balance, and you just have to find the things that you do enjoy. And like you said, like maybe if you're growing out of love of that business, you have to at least scale it up to the point where you can sell it, or you work your way out of it and free up some time.
Or buy time back.
Or create revenue to invest in the next thing.
So I'm thinking about 10,000 hours. And there's been this idea of it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert, or 10,000 hours to get to what most people would call ideal state. So you have your system in place, money's working for you, and you're not working for the money. On your journey to that 10,000 hours, what are some lessons that you've learned through being an entrepreneur, running a business, collaborating? How do you find the right people? And when you don't have the right people, how do you have those conversations to part ways?
10,000 hours, well, it's loaded. That alone is very loaded. I don't think I've spent 10,000 hours doing any singular thing in 16 years of my business. Technology changes, ideas change, everything changes, and my role in my business is continually evolving.
Always adapting.
It's always adapting. So at the core of what I do is like visual communication, and basically like finding the essence of things and communicating it and doing it through like a branding lens, right? Through digital. That hasn't changed. So I think those 10,000 hours, I'd say I've become very effective at understanding these ideas and coalescing like really abstract concepts from people and pulling it out of them and putting it together in a cohesive way that can be leveraged across digital experiences and touch points. that's kind of it in a nutshell. Like, but it over the time too, though, it sounds like a big task. But as you go further in your career, like that stuff gets easier and easier and easier for you, and it looks more impressive to other people because you're getting more efficient and more proficient in it, and how you explain it and how you talk about it, and you can look at it from multiple perspectives as a designer, as a business person, from a creative director standpoint, from a marketing manager perspective, from a founder's perspective. And you have all these different perspectives, and you know how to talk about it through the business lenses, and you can talk to the creative people. It makes you really powerful in that
that's
role.
Where the value is.
And that's where the value is.
Yeah.
It's about like bringing everyone's ideas together and producing something that actually works for their customers, for their brand, for their marketing team, for their stakeholders. It's a big ask. It's a big ask to do that. So I think that's where the 10,000 hours is going.
Yeah.
And I'm
all
happy.
that experience,
I'm happy about
you can
that.
know what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you can speak the various languages that bring the overall picture together.
Yeah, and I'm pleased with that, because that's not something you can automate. You know. Thank
AI,
God,
right?
Thank God.
And we were talking about that. So when you think about the value of the 10,000 hours and what you're building an experience, you may have people who are leveraging AI and ways to essentially try maybe to shortcut or fast track certain things. But then you mentioned that, that may actually expose them because it'll look the same compared to this unique approach of you.
I'm already seeing this on LinkedIn. So like with everyone writing posts and trying to have like a hook on their post, and like there's like this formulaic way of writing, and people are starting to pinpoint patterns from like the large language models that keep coming out, or like the different emojis it tends to use, or like there's like something about M dashes being used, or like there's these cues, and like you can see it all over LinkedIn, and people are starting to notice it, and you can see like the content's getting boring, and I see all these great, like I see really well written posts, and then I see like hundreds, thousands of comments, and you can tell they're all bots. They're all automated replies. And at that point, what's the point of even engaging with this? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It brings everything down, in my opinion. Like it's a great tool. I've used it in my creative pursuits. I help create proposals with it, collect my thoughts, distill information, rewrite emails or prioritization lists. It's amazing. I've used it for creating visuals. But at the same time, it's like you can see it's all based on like the same information. And even like as this evolves and people are starting to create websites with it, it's all based on commonalities.
Yeah.
So you're going to see inconsistencies and the things that make websites really unique right now flatten out.
So you're saying essentially AI can pretty much create this status quo outcome.
Yes.
So, and right now a lot of
not
people,
to say there's not great ways to
leverage it. Yeah.
But it's not going to replace anyone doing any meaningful creative work. It's not going to replace anything interesting and new and nuanced.
See, that's interesting, and I feel like people need to hear this because when you're on social media, right, all you see is if you're not using AI or you're gonna be left behind.
It's so stressful.
Right? There's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure,
and it kind of forces you. If you were on that path of really honing in and being in a silent place so you can create your own thoughts, and then you come across this message, now you kind of like, you know what, I'm going to be left behind if I don't just invest my time. It's kind of scary, right?
Everything's so loud.
Yeah, everybody's saying the same thing. So when you live in this world that is essentially loud, as you mentioned, how do you keep yourself in a place where you can set boundaries? Are boundaries important?
Yeah.
Are you on social media? Do you take time when you take this sabbatical?
These are great questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, boundary setting I'm getting better with it. I have blocks on my calendars now. I used to not do this, but I block out most of Wednesdays as like pure focus time to work. I take most Fridays off. I'm very blessed to be able to do that, first of all. It's most Fridays that I take off. And I set blocks in my schedule as I need to. I'm not so good with kind of like the Slack messages and updates and being online all the time during the workday, and feeling like I have to respond immediately to people's requests and outreach, because our studio works with multiple agency clients all the time, and within those agencies you have multiple project managers and you have multiple stakeholders, and
so everybody wants updates.
You got developers and engineers and strategists, and everybody's looking for everything from you all the time. And I feel a lot of times that I'm more of an air traffic controller than a designer anymore. Honestly, and I think that's just like where my role's going, into like more of a director role versus like a design producer role, even though I love doing that. So there's still boundary setting that I can do, but you also have to balance like what the needs of the people you're working for.
Yeah, you have to understand the common vision, the goal, the timelines.
Yeah, and you want to be reliable for people and timely, and a lot of that I attribute a lot of those types of qualities, that persistence, that consistency, that reliability, that trustworthiness. That's the stuff that builds your network over time. People come to depend on you. They trust you. They want your insights. They know that you're networked, and that's the stuff that for me has been key for building a business, where you have people all over the place that know of you and know what you do, and they want to partner with you
and bring you can deliver.
And you can stack projects on a timeline, and that's like you compound your revenue that way as like a studio agency type model.
That's awesome. So what I'm hearing here, and we know this cliche, and then we come to understand that a lot of these cliches are pretty much true, right? Because just time, the age of time have proven it. But your network is your net worth. Yeah. Would you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I would agree. And not just network, but like engaging the network.
Yeah.
Like, how can you work with these people? You can have people that maybe are direct competitors. You can think about them that way, or you can think about how do I leverage this? How do I partner with these people in a true, meaningful way?
Yeah,
not just like a contrived business relationship because you're out for
48 laws of power. Or something.
But it's like how do you actually do that? And for us, a lot of good has come out of partnering up on like referral kickbacks and stuff with analogous businesses that don't do what we do, but we're in similar spaces or it's related.
Yeah,
there's people doing SEO work or data analytics or retention work, email marketing, whatever it might be, and those like aren't our core specialties, but the people that we engage with, our clients, need those things too, and you pull your folks together.
Yeah, and it
enriches everybody. I would say this past year alone, just through that blossoming referral network, we probably 10% revenue lift, I would say, just this year.
That's amazing.
On project kickbacks alone.
So now you see this new channel, this avenue that you can also build as you're focused on these other areas.
It's pretty wild stuff.
And when you think about multi-stream income, you can see how it can start from this focused area and how you can expand it as you build. Yeah. As you build, relationships, reputation, projects over time, experience, then they just open up and it almost becomes the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
It sounds like.
But you have to keep putting the work in. You have to keep being dependable for these folks. Trustworthy.
Dependable, that's the key word.
Right?
Yeah.
Giving. You have to be giving. You have to be giving of your time. You're not charging for everything.
Yeah.
And there's some projects that are going really well. There's some projects where you need to spend a couple extra days on something and just sweep it under the rug, but it's worth it so that you're building the connections and the trustworthiness with your partners.
That's awesome. So now I want to segue into faith.
Yeah.
What does faith mean for you, again, you've been on this journey and you've seen a lot. You've seen people win, you've seen people lose, you've won, you've lost. And how has faith allowed you to view these different things, and how has it been able to pull you forward to where you are now?
Yeah, the big thing is that I don't feel like I'm alone on this journey. Like, God's hand has been on my life and in all the major decisions that I've had, and I've asked for guidance through all of it. And so I don't feel like I'm on this path to nowhere.
Yeah.
I felt God's presence directing my wife and I in very like crazy ways of like divine timing of jobs and transitions, and when mortgages close and loans get done, like just some pretty wild timing in general. And that has been proof for me that I'm not alone on this journey. Those are like the big signs that were given to us. They're irrefutable in my mind, and I think God gives you those, and if you're paying attention, those are the things that like you have to keep leaning on, time and time again, even when things aren't going the way you want them to go. Like I always say, I say this a lot to people that I know, like I always felt that if you're going down one path and doors keep closing, God doesn't want you going on that path. Like God's path for you is easy. It's easy. It's a flow.
Yeah. You
shouldn't be coming up against friction. And when it's flowing, keep going. Like you just have to keep riding this. And right now, we're flowing. And anytime I feel that friction with business relationships or specific clients or the direction I'm taking the business, and things just they're frictionful. Even life
feels forced.
Even life decisions.
Yeah.
Things too much friction. Doors are shutting. Turn away from it. Yeah, that's not the path you want to go on. So back to your question, like how is faith? I feel like I have my own ways that I've picked up on over the years, where I feel like I know how to like read the flow, if you will.
Yeah.
And
that's amazing.
And it's being in business for yourself is exhilarating and absolutely terrifying, because you're building everything. The foundation of your whole life is based on the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no guarantee that it's going to work. So to keep doing it, and I've been doing it for 16 years, faith has to be there.
Yeah.
It has to be there.
That's true.
Because how could you
just do something?
How could you just do something? It'd be mental.
Yeah.
It'd be mental.
Wow. And having that faith, how do you feel like that? Like, what are the lessons you feel like your kids so far are learning from you based on how you're showing up this faith that you're able to display?
It's tough because like they see dad very busy with work, and it is hard. It's hard being an entrepreneur and a father. But what makes it actually harder is I work out of my house, and my kids,
visually you're available.
I'm available. Yeah, and that's not always the case.
Yeah.
And a lot of times,
I get that.
My kids are still young, but I try to communicate to them, like, do you realize how blessed you are? Like, I don't think you do, but I'm trying to communicate this. Like, a lot of fathers, they're not just down the hallway in their office.
Exactly.
And like, they're not stepping out for lunch and can see you or whatever it might be. They're not taking Fridays off and like can drop you off at school and pick you up and go do something fun.
But then on the adverse,
that's a product of like the path of entrepreneurship and
what it can
creating freedom for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. And I look at, right, and there's the other side of that, where we look at like our parents. They had to be at a physical location to make things happen, and I feel like, right, we're in this time where we have the ability to take advantage of working from home and providing value, and then being able to see our kids grow and hit different milestones.
Yeah.
And, just you know, if your daughter just started walking, you know, it's just a yell down the hall, like, hey, Josh,
That's
you
right.
know, we just first steps,
That's
you know,
right.
and I think it's beautiful, right? Because as you said, not many people have that opportunity, and I think, you know, as we try to provide those lessons to our young ones, I feel like it's also a lesson that we sometimes have to remind ourselves that I get to do this.
Yes.
You know, like they get to do
Yeah,
mindset.
I totally agree. And like, and many times you like put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, even though you are like so much more available than your parents and like their parents' generations, like honestly, so much more available to your kids, you still like heap this pressure on yourself, like, oh, I'm not spending enough time with my children, or I'm not doing this or not doing that. And it's like, it's not helpful at all. And your kids are getting what they need as long as you're loving them. And it's tricky. It's a tricky balance. You always feel like you're not doing enough.
Yeah. Wow. This conversation has been, you know, really helpful for me. Again, we have conversations like this all the time. And I think it's important for, you know, viewers to understand what it really takes, right? I feel like, you know, we get sold, gotta have passion. If your passion's not in it, then don't do it, then it's not for you. Or the world will tell us, if there's friction, push harder, right? It means you don't want it bad enough.
That's true. That is true. We do hear that, don't we?
You know, so it's crazy how, you know, we can have this conversation and you can really see exactly how things are, because sometimes you just hear only the good and you don't hear the real. And, you know, the purpose of the conversation was to really focus on the real. And, you know, I know there's a lot ahead for you, right? Your latter day is going to be far greater than your former, and I'm excited to be a part of that journey. And I guess, you know, something I'd like to ask you, you know, if there's anything that you would say to your 20-year-old self, what would that be? Would you keep everything exactly the same? Is there a message that you would, you know?
Yeah, and we chatted about this a little while ago today. It felt like for me, actually during COVID, right? Remember we were talking about this? I felt like during COVID, the business.
How did it? Because I asked, how did it impact you? Like,
how did COVID impact us? So this goes back to this question about how I would address a younger version of myself. I feel like for many years of my career, I was just kind of like doing what I thought I needed to do, and it was kind of the bare minimum. I remember I just like didn't have like a lot of drive. Like I wasn't taking myself as serious as I could, or I wasn't taking the business as serious as I should have. And I think that during that time of COVID, we had 2 children, or just before COVID. So we were at home with 2 little ones, and we had this amazing business opportunity where we got to work with a national brand that did health supplements during COVID. And these were the types of businesses that were just absolutely blowing up on the scene. And through my network, through past relationships, and this is where like I'm talking about how you have to show up consistently and you have to be proving people and just being reliable. That network paid off big time in that time period. We had this health supplements company during COVID, and through the network, I said, like, we ended up with this unbelievable retainer, and that was like a critical moment in my business where it was like a realization that what I have been doing was so much less than what the possibilities were for my business through this opportunity. And the funny thing was, like,
so that essentially took away the mental guardrails, essentially what you're saying, right?
It did. Yeah. Like, you're thinking like
what's possible.
Yeah, maybe at that point in time I was thinking about like my time as just like a billable hourly rate, and like the value that I think that I could charge had like a mental cap to it. And then we get this opportunity where that just was kind of blown wide open.
Yeah.
And it was also such a big client. And I told Carolyn, I said, this is the type of client that you get this, you have a case study, and this is going to open up doors to other clients of this size, or at least get people thinking that they're going to take you serious at the next level. And what I said to you earlier was, funny enough, we never actually put that case study together. I never showed anyone that work necessarily. I didn't make it front and center. So it wasn't that propelled our business, because we saw tremendous growth in our business right after that. Not even just because of that client. Things just completely blew up afterwards, and in a good way. And so it wasn't the actual physical thing where clients were seeing this work and making decisions. So what I was saying was, it was actually what it was like a mindset shift in seeing how like I was personally limiting myself in my business at that point in time, and how we totally blew past it, and then it's been like nonstop momentum
since then.
Ever since.
So it's amazing how you were able to, right? Because I think awareness is pivotal, right? And you mentioned, right, you hit this inflection point where you could have made a decision to keep yourself within this mindset of, these are my limits, this is what I can charge, these are the type of companies I can work with, versus we can scale like we've never done before.
Yeah, sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. There's no limit here. And you made the decision to look at it that way, perspective.
Yeah.
You made a decision that, man in the mirror, you know, you are capable, you have the ability.
It all changed.
All of it. So
quickly.
So for someone who is battling that, right, maybe approaching their inflection point, what would you say to them?
And I was saying, like, the way I was saying was like, my mindset shifted because I saw through it. I saw that like the barriers were mental. They really were. And I almost think that you have to think about like what that barrier is for you.
Yeah.
And just like put yourself in the mindset of like, you already accomplished it. What does that mean? What does that look like now?
So visualization is critical. It sounds like
it's almost like a fake it till you make it kind of thing. I kind of hate that phrase.
I mean, actually, that phrase did get me from a place where I did not have a lot in my atmosphere, in my environment.
Yeah.
And my math teacher, when I was in the what grade was I? I was in the 7th grade. You know, I struggled with math, and then he was like, "Dude, fake it till you make it." And I was just like, "What?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Visualize it, embody it, what you see, believe that you can achieve it, accept it, and just move forward."
Yeah.
And it made a difference for me.
I agree, but like I don't know if I agree with like the term fake it. Like I don't think
I hear you.
I don't think you're faking it.
Yeah.
I think you're just taking steps.
Yeah.
Right? And I think like that's what God wants. Like he wants you just to be moving forward.
Yeah.
Like you're going to do some of the work. He's going to do the rest. But you have to be doing some of the work.
Yeah.
You
have those people on their couch. I'm going to become a multi-millionaire.
It's not happening.
I'm going to have a Bentley. But you're watching Netflix.
No.
Can you let them know?
You know what?
It's not happening.
And first of all right, can everyone stop ragging on Netflix? Okay? Sometimes you need to Netflix and chill and not feel like stressed out because you're Netflixing and chilling. Honestly,
so you're
stop putting so much pressure on yourselves.
So you're saying it's important to take a step back and relax and take things in. It's important to reflect.
I'm just saying, stop stressing over your $3 coffee that, everyone's like, yeah, you're not going to get ahead till you save your money and you're not buying your coffee, you're not doing subscribing to Netflix. Bullshit.
Yeah, so you can do those things, but doing too much of it, right? If there's something that
I'll also lump in, don't drive a car that you like, don't buy like expensive stuff. I don't agree.
Yeah. I don't subscribe to that.
I don't subscribe to that mentality. We talked about this a little bit earlier too.
Yeah.
I wish you guys had been on the earlier conversation too, as we went through so much stuff.
Yeah.
But I was talking about how like there's like this culture around like transforming the American dream into something that's like is distilled, and it's less about like owning things and like aspiring to these big things, and more about like reducing and simplicity and like having just more time freedom and stuff like that. But it's not for everybody, and like I just want everyone to know like it's okay to like want things and strive for things. And in fact, I would say that a big drive for me was actually putting financial burdens on myself.
Yeah, because it's like putting you in that corner.
It does.
You know what I mean? It forces you to.
Yeah, and that might come in the form of like having kids, or like having like a household with one person working, or it might be just buy that car that you want. And that's it. It's right for everyone. You gotta be.
Gotta know your work ethic.
You gotta be reasonable.
Can you deliver? Can you execute? Can you be consistent?
Yeah.
Right, because those car notes, you know, they're gonna every month. You know, so you have to be
smart with what you buy too.
Exactly.
And be smart. And I would say go for the higher models. Go with the rare models. They hold their value. They hold their value.
That's real.
When you turn that thing in, you're gonna get more back on it. It's gonna depreciate less. So
that's true. That's true.
I'm in the mindset of just go big.
Go big. So you heard it from the man himself, Joshua Vizzaco, my really good friend, my brother, and you know this won't be the last conversation that we have.
I hope not.
Any parting words that you would like to give to the audience?
Oh gosh. I mean, the world's your oyster. You know, go with God. Know that He's behind you. Make the right steps. Be consistent. Find something that you want to do. Find something that you love to do. Stick with it. Consistency is so big. This is my last tip. I've seen so many people go in and out of different career paths, and like start something and stay in it for 3 years and then get out of it, or I'm gonna go try this job, or I'm gonna freelance for like 2 years and then I'm gonna bail. Stay consistent. Just do it. Consistency is the only way that you're gonna build trust within a network, and the network can rely on you and know that you're gonna be there for them. If you're jumping around in careers, you're jumping around from full-time job to part-time job to freelance, you're not going to build a consistent, trustworthy base for a network to find you. You're just not going to be there. Oh, I want so-and-so on this project, or I want to hire them for this. Oh, no, they're not available anymore. What are they doing these days? I don't know. They're gone. They're off the radar. Consistency. I'm talking long-term consistency. I've been doing it 16 years consistently.
Yeah.
It's the only way. So.
There you go. Josh Vizzaco, thank you.
Thank you.
For just spending this time with us, spending this time with me.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and tomorrow we're going to church. My mother-in-law, she's getting baptized, so it's just a phenomenal weekend. I'm super excited to be with my family. Until next time, take care, y'all. Stay blessed.
God bless.
Sweet!
That was cool.
How did it feel?
It felt good.
Yeah?
It felt good.
Sweet.